me tell you, you can't quite see it. Well, maybe you can. Okay, so early people who are watching this, check this out.
It doesn't say that you're live yet. It still says scheduled, I
Well,
think.
do you see all that snow coming down? Just a little
Oh, let
nice
me.
pitter pattering. Nothing crazy.
Ah,
No.
let me. Oh
So,
yeah, yeah. That's not too bad.
yeah, it's, some snow. It's fine. Nothing too.
My back porch has about like 2 feet of snow on it, but it's not currently snowing. So
Yeah. Well, it looks like we are live on YouTube, which is the big thing that matters here before we get decentralized things popping up. Says I have one. Hey, 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 people. I type in the live chat in real time. Yeah, when I was younger, always got irritated by streamers who would just like talk about nothing for like an hour while people were joining the chat. And then,
right,
but now I understand. Now I've become what I hate the most,
yeah.
which may or may not soon be a TikToker. But we'll talk about that. Let me roll the intro, and here we go. So, hey, early people, I have the fantastic pleasure of joining you again on another Friday. This is a snowy Friday, and I have my buddy Spencer, a.k.a. Kodaxx, and his camera just turned off. There it goes. And
It
he has
did.
a nice painting of, is that actually a painting of Wyoming, by the way, or is it somewhere else?
No, yeah, that's Wyoming.
Yeah.
That's the Grand Tetons there, and it is a photo, but it's a giant photo.
Okay, so it literally could be your back window there.
Yeah,
Yeah, not quite, but close enough.
yeah,
Y-
yeah.
Yeah, so before we jump into some fun stuff, um, have you touched TikTok in your life?
No, I know what it is. Um, I've never used it. I got a niece and a nephew that use TikTok, and they always make
Mm,
fun of me because I don't. They'll say something or do something, and I'll be like, "What's that from?" And they're like, "Oh, it's from TikTok. You don't know?" No, I don't.
no. Um, it's one of those things where every old person, such as myself, resists getting with the times, and I did not resist getting in the time with the times in the past. In fact, I jumped on Snapchat when it was like new,
So did
with
I. Yeah,
both feet, and then Yik Yak as well.
I don't remember Yik
Yeah,
Yak.
whatever. It's basically like completely anonymous Reddit, where it's localized completely anonymous Reddit.
Oh, right. No, I do remember that. And there was like a problem with something.
Problem, you know how
Well,
it is. It's always like,
you know
oh,
what I
some
mean.
kid cyber bullied some other kid, and then it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah, you know what I
but
mean.
you leave Twitter up. I mean, anyway. So basically, I got on Snapchat. I was a heavy Snapchat user for I guess 26, 27-year old at the time. I have to say, it really helped with. But do you want to say something? I just want to check the audio levels real quick.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
they're there. Okay. It's just that mine always has a low burn here, and yours are completely gone. They're completely non-existent when you're not speaking. So I got scared. Anyway,
Oh,
so Snapchat really helped me in the beginning for a while, like date, for example, because it's just so much.
yeah.
It's such a nightmare to just be like, oh, hey, person I met on app, hey, what's going on? Chat
Right.
back
Or
and
like
forth.
even like in real life, like, hey, person I met in a bar, like, what do
Yeah,
you say to that person, right? And then if you do, is the person in the bar the type of person that you want to be meeting and building a relationship with? Like maybe nothing
yeah,
against bars, like I get it. I've spent plenty of time in a bar,
yeah.
but um, yeah, it's like one of those things where it's like, how do you meet people other than bars in today's day and age, right? Like at work, maybe.
Yeah, so it is. I had to get it because it is something that just you know it gives a little window into people's lives, and that's what was
Right.
the good thing. It makes it safer. It's like, oh, I kind of feel like I know this person. I see him around. I see him getting coffee. I see him doing whatever.
Right. And they see you around, they see your
Yeah,
Snapchat stories. I mean, you can tell if they do or not, right?
yeah. But I completely dropped off Snapchat. I don't really use it anymore.
I do.
And
I
I
do.
do try to use Instagram stuff like that. But all this around, to go around TikTok, we have 6 people watching, so at some point we'll have to talk about real things. But people are just in like people are saying like, oh, you need to be in on crypto TikTok and stuff like that. And I'm like, oh God, really? And like I know there's that what's her name? Nerd girl, Nicole Gridstead, who was on I
Yeah,
think last time or no, it was 2 times ago.
two
And
times. Yeah.
yeah,
Last
like a
time you
month
were
last
on, right?
month. Yeah, and then she's big on crypto TikTok for saying slutty things while talking about crypto, which is not an insult. It's what she's going for, right?
Right,
But then
right.
I saw like BitBoy, BitBoy, right?
Yeah.
And it's like he's on TikTok and he's doing stuff like, oh, the price, oh, and like that's what you got to do. And I just like I feel this like sense of dread on having to do that stuff because I feel awkward about just putting my
Well, you gotta
face.
look at it like that. You don't have to do that stuff, right? Like
Yeah.
we're going for a different vibe. These guys are going for like viral videos, views, and stuff like that. Not that you're not going for views. Of course you want that, but you're going for a more journalistic approach, right? You want
Mm-hmm.
like you're this is a news channel and a podcast. So it's like you're talking about actual happenings. Not that they aren't, but they're just going for a different type of audience. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm definitely not. I'm definitely not going to be a dancer. Only one of those dance people.
Yeah.
But
And
anyway,
you can't dance.
we're about 6.5 minutes into this thing. It might as well talk about the elephant in the room, the elephant in the OKEx room.
Oh yeah.
So OKEx, which is by all accounts a big enough of an exchange,
Are
decided
they?
to
I mean, yeah, they are. No, they are.
delist Bitcoin Cash and Bitcoin SV for like reasons, for like ethical
For,
reasons.
yeah, they're saying what there's a massive campaign of misinformation, which, you know, they are wrong and they're not wrong. The way I
Mm,
look at it is like this. I think so. So they cite sources. The things that they cite are like, Craig Wright suing over or not suing, but attempting to copyright the Bitcoin white paper, right? Like that's one thing they talk about. The other is Roger Ver selling Bitcoin Cash on Bitcoin.com, and like there was a whole thing that was like a year or two ago,
yeah.
whatever it was. So like here's the thing though, I don't think at least Roger I don't think Roger is intentionally confusing people, and I think he genuinely believes that Bitcoin Cash is the real Bitcoin. And whether that's true or not, that's not what I'm debating right now.
Mm-hmm.
All I'm saying is I think that he genuinely believes that, and he owns Bitcoin.com. So him running a private business, he sells BTC and Bitcoin Cash. They both share the Bitcoin part of the name, which happened because it's a fork, right? And they are saying we are the real Bitcoin. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, that's still up for debate, but like OKEx by doing what they did has taken a stance on who they believe the real Bitcoin is, right? And they
Yeah.
also have that right as a business, I suppose. In Craig Wright's case, copywriting the Bitcoin white paper seems a bit shady to me. Uh, Maybe he has a right to, maybe he doesn't. That's also not what I'm debating. I think that seems to me to be a little more accurate in the description of a misinformation campaign. But
Yeah.
I don't
Well,
really know.
so I kind of think that I agree. I majority agree with what they're saying. That what they're saying is been going on is shady, and at the same time I think that what they're doing is kind of shady and not really the thing. I mean, if you look at
Right.
their volume for those two assets, very negligible. It's not like they're losing
Yeah.
business. They're not gonna.
$30,000 and 150. So we're looking at less than $200,000 total.
Yeah. Now, if you took some prominent BTC figureheads and started to like, or let's say Vitalik, started
Right.
saying Ethereum's the real Bitcoin, bunch of weird nonsense like that, and
Right.
they got upset. Like they would not delist Ethereum. That's just the real
Absolutely
thing.
not. It's their moneymaker.
Yeah. So like whenever people do this, like there's always that like, oh, okay, I see how this works. Now that being said, um, I think we're starting to see some of the liabilities associated with a
The
copy brand Now,
Yeah,
like, I do. So first off, I believe that the idea of a real Bitcoin is just nonsense. There is no such thing.
I agree. Agreed,
Um,
100%.
Now, as far as like the closest to the Bitcoin white paper, the closest to like a ghetto old school Bitcoin is probably probably BSV, to be
I would
honest.
say.
But
Yep, I would say so.
BCH is more aligned with the vision and stuff. So I would call that the realist Bitcoin, the most originalist version. The thing is, they did this like nonsense move, which I'm always going to be clear about, right? That I believe this. And by the way, for all you weirdos out there who don't know, Roger Ver did not invent Bitcoin Cash. He didn't even jump on board in the beginning. He was just like
Right.
waited for a while. It was Bitcoin ABC, notably, Amari Sachet, who decided,
Right.
okay, we're going to split off from Bitcoin, not because I guess the way you should do a fork, if there is a should do, is you should try to be the dominant fork, I think. Otherwise, you should abandon the name. And the problem,
Yeah, especially in regards to hash power.
yeah. And the thing is, they did not even try to become the dominant chain, but they just try to take the name, which I think is a little bit of a confusing and weasel move, to try to be like, well, we realized we lost, but we're gonna just like try to still be there and win in the end and stuff. And
Yeah.
it's like not under like eCash or DigiCash or something like that, some name like that that's similar. That's
Right. No, and then it boils down to there's
BitCash.
a lot of people are so attached to
Hmm.
that Bitcoin brand name.
Yeah. So I think it was kind of a weasel move to like call it something too close to try to basically try to cheat and not build a project from scratch. But like, well, we got it's the same and it's the same Genesis block and it's really just Bitcoin and like everything we just get everything with it. It's a little
Now,
shady
there,
in
there's
my
a,
view.
there's a little shadiness there, but there's also some actual logic there too. If you think about it, a lot of people give like other projects shit either deservingly or not deserve. Like they say like, oh, they all, like Dash is always the Instamine, right, or
Hmm.
whatever. And then like other projects like Ethereum, all the developers hold all the coins and then they're giving them out, or Ripple's that way. I mean, so like it's distribution, right? So if you have the same Genesis block as what all Bitcoin maxis always say, that Bitcoin is the most fairly distributed coin,
Mm,
right? So what Bitcoin
yeah.
Cash is able to say is, guess what? Ours is distributed is just as fair.
Hmm.
So that's never
Yeah.
been a contention for Bitcoin Cash. Nobody ever says, "Oh yeah, great technology, but Instamine."
Well, yeah. So what I would call it, I would have just called it BitCash, for example. It's
Sure,
basically the same name as Bitcoin, but it's clearly not Bitcoin. And
I
you
agree. I
still,
think Cash is actually a better name.
yeah, because Bitcoin Cash is like, it's just like calling something cash money. It's like it's sort of redundant in a little bit of a pimp
Coin
kind of a
Cash.
way, you know?
Coin Cash.
Yeah, that's a little weird. So I would just call it BitCash. Say everyone who had Bitcoin has BitCash, obviously, because it splits. Just say that BitCash is the real deal. What BitCash is what Bitcoin set out to be, and just hammer that home. But don't try to confuse people. And there were some things, and I've been very public about disagreeing with stuff on Bitcoin.com where there's some confusing language that seemed to confuse people into buying
I
Bitcoin
heard
Cash.
about that and I looked at it. I never saw that. Like I went to bitcoin.com and was looking for like the confusing thing. And I get like, okay, I get it from like a normie's perspective because I got people that like I work with or whatever that bought some Bitcoin Cash and they always tell me, oh, I got Bitcoin, And I'm like, no, you have Bitcoin Cash. They're different. I have some people coming in the house. I'm going to mute myself.
Yeah. Yeah. So as I will say, and I just get to monopolize the conversation thanks to your puppies. But basically, there was some stuff where they called it like you want to buy Bitcoin in parentheses BCH, but like no one knows what the ticker is unless you're a crypto person. But it was like you want to buy Bitcoin or Bitcoin Core. It was phrased in those ways, and that's like it's not even called Bitcoin Core. That's what you're calling it. There was some, I would say, abject dishonesty there. Not 100%
Right. Oh,
lying,
I
but
see.
tricky stuff that I disagreed with. Now they don't do that, which is fine. And just on Wednesday, 2 days ago, I'm at some meetup, some crypto meetup, and someone's trying to like, hey, get some newbie. Hey, I'm gonna give you hand cash. It's the easiest Bitcoin wallet. Like, oh, what does it run on? It runs on Bitcoin. Not that it doesn't. It runs on Bitcoin SV. That's a different thing. But like, no, this is the easiest way to send your Bitcoin. And just like, that is dishonest. I'm sorry. If you're
Yeah,
watching
no, I
this and
get
you
what you're
did this,
saying.
it's
It is
dishonest.
it's confusing for people, and you know, I've been, as you know, I've been looking into Bitcoin SV lately and checking out
Hmm.
some of the things that they've got going on. And Handcash is a great wallet by all accounts.
Oh
Like
yeah.
it's a wonderful wallet. Um, but I thought about, if I were to build a project on it, like I would have to explain to people that, like, let's just, for example, say that I made a point of sale thing for Bitcoin SV. Reason I say that is because I've made a point of sale thing for Dash, and I started making one for Bitcoin Cash a while back. Long story. Anyway, if I made one for Bitcoin SV, I would have to clarify via branding or whatever that this is a Bitcoin SV point of sale. Because if somebody tried to pay regular Bitcoin to it, they would lose their money. The merchant would not get paid,
Yeah.
and the customer would lose their money.
I
So it's important to clarify that.
I just made a video today about addresses and wallets. Like, what's an address? What's a wallet? Things like really newbie stuff, but made it like a 20-minute long, like a deeper dive kind of thing, where I
Right.
talk about what's the difference between UTXOs and like account based things and like all that. But
State machines like Ethereum
yeah,
or
but as
whatever.
part of the things I was saying is the address formats. So Bitcoin Cash as a fork, first off, same address format. A lot of people lost their money. Now, again, I think it was exaggerated how many people.
Originally, right? They've changed it since then, haven't
Yeah,
they?
and then well, they
The
didn't.
Q format or whatever.
I don't know if they changed it, but there is a cash adder format, which is what most people use for Bitcoin Cash, which is
Yeah,
unique.
the Betch 32 or whatever,
Yes,
right?
but there are still some services that use the BTC version of the address format, and I've had compatibility issues, had to switch back and forth. Now, of course,
Yeah.
BSV just like jumped right in there. It's like, nah, we're the real Bitcoin. We're gonna take over everyone, and like, and they are still deep in the confusion. And I guess because they're like down the market caps, they're not as likely to be confused, but it's still there. And that does remind me of like it's so when we're talking about how did this all get started, it's pretty much, I mean, I could blame some other people maybe, but pretty much our good friend Amari Sachet is the guy who decided to make another Bitcoin and call it Bitcoin something, right? As far as I know. Now, if any crypto historians know better than me, then they know. So Craig Wright and
No,
Calvin
no,
Air.
no offense to Amari or you if you're friends with Amari. I didn't really think that a lot of his moves were warranted, like in general.
Yeah. Well,
Like especially recently with that last Bitcoin Cash fork, like with the tax shit. Like, bro,
yeah,
what?
that was a little interesting too. But
Anyway,
just
we
to,
don't need to get into
just
all of that.
yeah, just to stay on that thing, he, I believe, he's the one who made the decision to split off from Bitcoin, a Bitcoin, and not try to be a majority fork, just acquiesce that you're the other one, but then decide to keep a Bitcoin name, which is funny because as far as I'm aware, Bitcoin ABC, which split off from Bitcoin Cash, again, when we talked about this whole thing, is pursuing a name change, something like eCash or something like that. So it's funny that the guy who started this bad precedent of, again, disagreements, right?
Right.
I'm not saying you're a piece of shit person, Amari. I'm just saying I don't agree with the decision to call it Bitcoin something. Has now come full circle and is doing what you could imagine if he called his original fork eCash, you know? First
Right.
off, it'd be, they wouldn't call it Bcash, they'd just call it eCash. It's like right there.
I also think that I don't think that they would be as high in the market cap if they didn't have the name.
Yeah, it was, again, but the thing is, as it comes full circle, right? First off, you get a lot of people who will not touch it. In
That's true.
fact, like the transaction volume on Bitcoin Cash is above what Bitcoin is right now. And I'm pretty sure that's related largely to Noise.cash, which got a big donation to, get people using the network and doing a lot of on-chain transactions. I know on the coin fair value thing, the fair value is through the roof, but the uncertainty is absolutely massive. So
Right.
what that means is it
Has to do with the
looks,
fact that it's forked twice in the last 2 years.
yeah, is it looks like it's a lot of, not, it could be a lot of inorganic or not maybe organic, but very limited volume, whatever it is. But some people are asking me from some like crypto companies saying, hey, do you think this is real? Because they're resisting adding Bitcoin Cash because it's been panned by a lot of good services because of the negative effects of that. And that's the thing is, if you cheat to win, right? You cheat to win. Maybe the cheating comes back to bite you at some point, right?
Sure.
And so like that, and then of course just like delisting because we don't like Craig Wright. Well, that's one thing, but because of confusion.
Yeah.
Although it's funny because everything I read in that article about the delisting seems to be they're mad at Craig Wright, and therefore Bitcoin Cash can go too. It's like, huh? What? That doesn't really make sense, you know? I mean, you could go in the past about dishonest marketing tactics or whatever, but not recently. It's for Bitcoin Cash at least. So anyway, I think it's like a dumb business decision, but some people will just now all of a sudden the business will go, all the Bitcoin Cash and Bitcoin SV business will go to other exchanges, obviously. And a lot of people who didn't really trade those, but but they got pissed off by the values statement that makes, will take their business elsewhere. So I think it's a bad business decision to just like earn some brownie points or whatever. It's a little strange. Well, guess what? Now it's time to talk about the other big elephant in the room, which right before that, reminding to everyone, you go to cointr.ee/thedesertlinks, as it says on the screen, or it's in the video description here, and you can go do a live crypto super chat. Well, there's a not super chat question here. Wait, who delisted Bitcoin Cash? That was OKEx, as far as I remember. OKEx delisted the 2 Bitcoin forks over, they said like negative marketing, dishonest marketing, manipulative marketing things. They were just looking for an excuse to not support them. But anyway, Justin Soulard says we are all Craig Wright. Well, you mean we're all something of a huge asshole once in a while? Yeah, maybe. But anyway, now it's time for Ethereum. So, headline news: Ethereum can't scale. And
that headline news? It is. I guess it is on a bunch of headlines, but I don't know if it's headline news.
Yeah. So, somewhere in 2017, the CryptoKitties fervor came through, and Ethereum ground to a halt and had horrendously expensive transactions. Like what is like the SpongeBob thing? 4 years later, it's we're still here, except now it's hit critical mass problems. And at first, I thought it was just like a structural problem with Ethereum that would take a long time to fix via ETH 2.0 and other things like that. But now I'm starting to see Nikita, I forget how to say his last name, but the guy from Blockchair, he's on a tear lately being really upset at Ethereum devs, saying,
Makes sense.
Yeah, basically just saying, like, look, you guys can increase the gas limit safely today, and you're choosing not to. It's the same nonsense as Bitcoin Core developers back in the day don't want to increase the block size. And I read through Ethereum is something that I don't think I'll ever be able to 100% understand. It's like a little weird, but
I get it, and I mean I think he's absolutely right. The issue, of course, is hi Avery. I'm talking here. Sorry, my dog is being crazy. The mailman's outside.
It's fine.
So yeah, I think he's absolutely right. And then it is funny because the parallels that you draw from this conversation, raising the gas limit, and the conversation with Bitcoin before the Bitcoin Cash fork about the block size is literally exactly the same. I mean, it's this. I get it. When the fees are up and the blocks are full, the miners are happy. Nobody wants to change that, right? So the developers in control are going, no, this is good for everybody. If you can't afford it, then just don't use it. And it's like, what? At this point, it is cheaper to send a wire.
Yeah, it's complete insanity, especially for I don't know. Like I understand that's the thing is you look into all these arguments, and there's a lot of validity, and retrospectively, when you look into a lot of the anti-scaling Bitcoin arguments, sure, there's a lot of validity here and there. Like there is some accuracy, but like to arrive at the conclusion of therefore we shouldn't let anyone use the network kind of a thing is complete nonsense. Like,
Right.
and the thing is, Bitcoin got away with it because it was just like, I mean, so far got away with it. Who knows? But because just the pack leader to that level. And also, people use it as a primarily as a hedge against inflations. And people buy Bitcoin to flip off the fiat currency system. And even back in the day when they're transacting with it, they still did that. That was still like the big selling proposition is we don't want fiat. You know, it wasn't that they were being blocked from using their fiat. They're just the value of fiat was going down. And
Right.
so because of that, like a big chunk of Bitcoin's usability went away, but the biggest part is still there. Now Ethereum, I don't know if people just want Ethereum because number go up. Like at some point,
Ethereum's got a lot of useful stuff on it. I mean, it's really
yeah,
cool.
yeah, of
And
course,
Ethereum's like biggest upside is the fact that people use it, right? There's demand, but that's also its biggest flaw because it's just not built to have that much use on it. Not at least right now. And I see in the chat, Hill's saying loop ring, layer 2 options, but it's not perfect either. That's absolutely right. Like loop ring will be great for. It's built to do some like decentralized exchange type stuff, but there are not many contracts you can put on loop ring like other smart contracts, and the contracts are taking up a lot of the gas. And so there are other scaling options they've been exploring. Like one is called Optimism, and it's an optimistic rollup.
optimism.
Ethereum,
Ethereum
yes,
scales on optimism. That's a
exactly.
funny headline.
Yeah, but optimistic rollup, and you know it's supposedly right around the corner, like everything in the crypto space. And you know we'll see.
18
But
months.
yeah, right now they have, I think, Uniswap and Synthetics and maybe one other project have, I think, so far agreed to launch contracts on Optimism, the layer 2. So if that happens, I mean that's like most of the gas right there. But I mean, at the end of the day, we'll see, right? And
Yeah,
it's still only a band-aid at this point.
and that's also the issue with L2 is there's so many L2s, and
Right.
it's
And you have
like,
to be on the same L2. Like
yeah,
if I'm loop ring and you're on Optimism and I'm like, oh, I'm going to send you, well, we have to settle to the main chain, send it across the main chain and back to your L2. It makes it even worse. And not only more expensive, but also like cognitive load is way more confusing. People just are like not ready for that.
yeah, it also makes me think about whenever I'm thinking about these things, um, it's always I'm always thinking as a not highly technical person, things that like make sense or don't make sense. It to me seems like Ethereum as a on-chain network. It's like one lane of traffic for everything, kind of. And so if there's like a bunch of people doing like a funeral procession ahead of you, you're just screwed. You can't get to work. And so, other than the upcoming slash now on testnet dash platform, do you know of any other systems that have like a side chain for a specific use case? Like for example, have value on the main chain and have like a side chain for things like that for operations.
That's a good question. I'm sure there is one.
Yeah, there's got to be. If you're in the live chat and if you're watching, let me know in the live chat because I'd really like to know about that stuff. It seems like a very elegant, good design decision on on the part of Dash. The As far as like Ethereum is concerned, I don't really do any contract stuff on there. I just have some tokens and I try to move them around and stuff.
But
And
moving tokens is contract interaction because
yeah.
your token is a contract on Ethereum.
Yeah, well, I guess things get more complicated with Ethereum, but mainly moving Ethereum itself, like the on-chain fees are what suck. And so for people just moving stuff around like that, there should be a way that just keeps that out of where the other traffic is, because it's funny because if you look at the network transaction, if you look at the stats, it's like average fee $20, average transaction value 0.
So the average transaction fee on Ethereum right now is somewhere around 20 or $30.
Uh-huh.
That's to move ETH, the native token.
Mm-hmm.
Contract interactions are somewhere around like 80 to $100 right now, average. And a contract interaction would be like, for example, moving USDC. is a contract interaction because you have to
Yeah.
reach out to the USDC contract and have it move the tokens for you.
Yeah, no
And
wonder. I have like $100 worth of like Ample Fourth or something like that, and I keep trying to swap it, and I got like $30 worth of ETH right there, and it's just not enough. And I'm like, "Ugh, I'm just gonna have to wait until this stuff is over. These tokens
right,
just
and is that what you want to hear? Right, like, do you think the world's ready for that? If they go, oh yeah, no, Ethereum's great, and I want to swap my USDC for some compound, but I'm just gonna wait until everything slows down because the chain's just too crowded right now.
yeah, it's kind of like so. This is I don't know if people are gonna be annoyed at the insensitive comparison, but it's kind of like COVID, where it's just like, oh yeah, I want to go out, I want to go vacation here, I want to travel there, I want to, but I'm just gonna wait. I want to restart this business or whatever. I'm just gonna wait until like COVID cools down. I'm just gonna wait like a year and then a year or two, and then just get back to it. So it's like Ethereum has COVID, right? It's just like disease. You can't get things done. Everything's shut down. You just gotta like wait it out until the storm's over. Except the storm might never be over. And to this end, Binance temporarily suspended Ethereum withdrawals. Like you could,
So I want to say real quick,
yes.
this is obviously a power move.
Well, I would say likely a power move. The context is I unfortunately don't remember what it was. There's too much stuff going through this pea brain of mine. But there was another exchange.
They're saying that they are doing something about slowing down. What they're saying is, if they can stop transactions from happening on Ethereum, then they are helping the network decongest.
Which
is true, but disingenuous.
yeah, so they're not the first exchange to do this, by the way. A few days ago or a week ago, I forget which other exchange also suspended Ethereum withdrawals for a temporary period of time. It might have been Shapeshift. I don't remember. It was like one of these things.
The fucked up part, and excuse my language.
Yes. No, that's
the
good.
messed up part is it actually makes a larger case for Ethereum's use case. Like, then you want to say, okay, well, if Binance is just going to suspend my withdrawals whenever they want to, then I'm just going to start trading on Uniswap from now on.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, obviously you can't because it's $150 to make a trade. But sometimes, I mean, $150 might be better to pay $150 than to not be able to make a trade at all.
I think Binance was just getting jealous of all the transaction stopping that the Ethereum fees were doing organically. They're like, we want some of that action. Look at me. I am the transaction stopper now.
Well, so you know that Binance Smart Chain,
yeah, that's the other bit.
yeah, which is like the sort of competitor, sort of to Ethereum. I mean, it uses, I believe it uses delegated proof of stake. So it's got like 21 validators. And
Binance owns all the tokens.
Binance, yeah, and Binance owns all the validators too, I believe. But anyway, so you can make transactions happen very fast on a chain like that. It's quite centralized, but you only have to communicate with 21 nodes, not 4,000, 5,000, right? So transactions propagate a lot quicker. So in that case, block times can be 3 seconds or something, and you can fit a lot more because the 21 nodes. You just pick 21 major hardware upgraded nodes. You can store everything in RAM until they're processed. And you can make things happen really fast. But, and at this point, a lot of money is moving from Ethereum to Binance Smart Chain because, I think because of the high fees on Ethereum. People are saying, look, decentralization is important to me, but it's not as important as just being able to get my shit done for a fair price.
Well, yeah, and that's the real, the uncomfortable truth about decentralization is decentralization
for principal reasons. Other people don't care. We just need to make it 10 times better than what already exists. We want to say it's faster, it's cheaper, and it's decentralized.
Yeah, decentralization is just a marketing term unless someone's trying to stop you from doing what you're doing. And if no one's stopping you on Binance Smart Chain, like it's literally functionally as good as a fully decentralized project until they start pulling some shenanigans. Of course, that's the big problem is when are they going to start pulling those shenanigans,
Right. So you and I see that, right?
Yeah.
Like people in the crypto space typically see that. Like we're like, all right, they're not doing anything now, but they could in the future, and that's why we believe so heavily in decentralization, right? But like
Hmm.
the average public doesn't care. They're like, look, I like Ethereum. It sounds cool, but it doesn't work
Yeah.
because I just can't. I'm not paying $100 to move my $50.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing is, Binance is Binance is doing some, I don't know. They are a highly successful business for plenty of good reasons.
Right.
There's a lot of shady stuff going on over there, which
Yeah.
kind of reminds me. I've been trying to get a story moving on this for a long time, but they have been cooperative, so might as well just spill some of the beans on air, which I'm sure you probably know about too. But Binance has somewhere around 270 Dash masternodes, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And they don't have anywhere near that number of staked Dash explicitly staked. And they're offering like 11% returns on Dash staking. I think they just cut it off. So it's, first off, those 270 masters are not customers who staked. They are either Binance's own proprietary funds or they're other customers' Dash funds that they just, I
Happen
guess,
to
embezzled. Embezzlement is a term
no,
like
they're
that might apply.
used. It's like a bank. When you
Hmm.
put money in the bank, they loan your money out. Your money's still there; it's earmarked for you, but the bank
Yeah,
makes some money off of it while it's in their institution,
but that's
and it's
understood, you know? That's
right.
that's
Yeah, which is
understood. That's part of the thing. You don't deposit Dash onto Binance and not stake it and just say, "Oh yeah, yeah, you can use it however you want." It is
but they can, and that's
that's the
the dirty
centralization
secret of
problem.
centralized exchanges, right?
Yeah, and so basically what Binance is doing is they're taking, let's just say, again, it could be their own funds, it could be some other scheme, right? But they're probably taking all their customers' Dash and turning into masternodes and getting return for them, but they're only giving a portion back to like fewer than half of them. The guys who the squeaky wheels that say, "Yeah, I'd like to stake it," and it's like, "Oh, guess what? You already were staking it, but here's your money for it." That's
Right.
probably what's going on, and
Exactly.
that's a it's not a very fun thing to do, especially because 270 masternodes is a big chunk. That's like, what is it? 5% of Dash masternodes currently. It's something like that.
Times 20, so 200 times 24,000. Yeah, about 5%.
Yeah, around 5%. And of course, this isn't 5% of Dash because there's like a little over half of the Dash supply is in masternodes currently. So, it's like 2.5% or something. And that, of course, it changes over time. But
Right. And you would have to shut those nodes down if users withdrew their funds, right? Like, because they're not theirs.
yeah, and they're not voting on proposals. So that means that the voting threshold is harder to get to because things like that. Which that's a whole nother conversation, could go on forever. But Binance has been doing this kind of gangster shit, for lack of a better term, of like colluding with Justin Sun and all people like that to shut down
Shut
Steam.
down.
Uh,
Yeah. Remember.
and then when the funds were not Safu, um, then talking in an
How
AMA
about
about,
rolling back?
yeah, we're gonna roll back to Bitcoin trend. And then, oh wait, whoops, did I say that out loud? Oh shit. They've
Yeah.
been doing stuff like that, and then now you got the whole, like, they're trying to push their Binance Pay token and stuff, which, whatever. But they're trying to, like, they conveniently suspend withdrawals from Ethereum temporarily, right? For like a few hours, I guess.
During the whole thing going on with Ethereum, and then you watch Binance Chain move up,
Yes.
and then they're from what I've heard, they're pumping a bunch of fake transactions through to make it look like
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of activity or whatever, and all these Ethereum bros are getting super mad, and
Which is
then
hilarious to watch, by the way, but that's
it
that's
is,
beside the point.
it is, but yeah, so then a bunch of Ethereum bros getting super mad, and I don't say Ethereum bros in a derogatory way. I just want to clarify that I've always spoken positive about Ethereum and like its
Mm-hmm.
capability, but it always comes back to scaling for me, and we just see that it can't scale.
Yeah.
Aside from so Ethereum bros getting mad, and then you see all of a sudden Binance says, "Oh, by the way, we're going to go ahead and suspend ETH withdrawals." Like that's just like salt in the wound, man. It's bad.
Yeah, and then it is funny to see a bunch of ETH bros losing their shit because for years, they were called centralized shitcoin scammers by the Bitcoin maximalists. Just
Right.
like, you
And now
stupid.
that's what they're saying.
Yeah, and now it's come full circle where now they're like, what is this stupid scam centralized chain? Back
And
in my,
again,
it's not
and again,
decentralized. It's like, oh.
again, it has to do with it's the same thing.
Hmm.
So Bitcoin failed to scale. Other chains popped up and started taking a lot of the use, and everything all of a sudden became a centralized scam shitcoin. And okay, then everyone in the world just said, okay, we get it. Ethereum's got a purpose. It's cool. Then it's failing to scale, and now there's Ethereum maxis refusing to help it scale, and then all of a sudden the next thing that comes up is a centralized scam shitcoin. Like it's history all over again.
Yeah, and at some point though, the market's going to outcompete Binance. Now,
Absolutely.
I don't think the thing is Binance is like they got this far by being good at what they do, right? Like, for example, they got a lot of Dash customers by just saying 11%. And
Yeah.
so,
CC's smart, bro. He's smart.
so yeah, Peter Vesberg is in the chat and he does CrowdNode, which is the more ethical version of Binance Dash staking, in
Yeah,
my view.
CrowdNode. A big shout out to
Yeah,
CrowdNode.
great, great product, great service, great people, everything. Use CrowdNode. So if but what happens if you just say, hey, CrowdNode people that legitimately do what they say they're going to do and pull funds together into a masternode and then let you actually vote on how that masternode votes and stuff like that. You're 5 or 6%, whatever you get. What if you got double if you did it on Binance? And it's like, well, then you just move over, and then too many people, which I thought is funny because I saw something again. This is not a factual journalistic show. This is a shit talking show. So don't take any of this as like facts. But I saw a rumor or a screenshot or something like that of Binance has closed off Dash staking for the moment. They're all full. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like, oh, why? Why don't they want more customers? Oh, you mean because it's starting to become to the point where a too high a percentage of their holders are asking to get a piece of their actual rewards back now.
Right.
Oh, like they just got to stop it so they can keep on using those unaffordable
Essentially,
11% rates.
outcompete CrowdNode or other
Hmm.
similar services by saying, oh, if they're offering you this, we'll offer you this, which is what they're saying is we're staking everyone's Dash. And since you're the ones that are asking for a piece, we'll give you your rightful piece plus a little bit of their piece, and then we'll keep the rest.
Hmm.
That's
Yeah.
the only way that that's possible.
So, and before we move on to like the Ripple stuff and other things, I do want to give my little pie in the sky thing. We need on Dash at least trustless masternode shares, some kind of good reliable thing, because otherwise people are going to be using all kinds of centralized things for staking, including CrowdNode, which is the best. It's the best case scenario, but
I
then
agree with you. Trustless masternode shares would be nice, but I
Mhm.
think the market has found a solution in CrowdNode, and and I'm with it. Like all decentralize all the things, right? Like I'm there, but until then, I don't see a problem with CrowdNode and how they operate. But you're right.
Yeah.
People do it, then like
So
Binance
people
and all the other. Then there's scammy shit going on there too.
Okay,
But
so people are working on this, on a few different ways of doing this stuff. It's still kind of hodgepodgey, but obviously the problem is the masternode system. It's node first and staking rewards second, right? It's supposed to be. It's not supposed to be you get ROI on your staked Dash. It's supposed to be you run collateralized nodes that end up running Dash. So I got
right.
this. I got this caffeine overdose induced, not overdose, but a lot of caffeine induced idea that I told Pasta, and he never answered, so it's probably a stupid idea. But I'll do it now with a little bit of less. I mean, so I've been doing deep dive into a bunch of different things, trying to learn more about all the different cryptos, and I looked into Nano a lot because I'm just tired of seeing those stupid bots just saying, or people, they could be people saying, try Nano, no fees, instant, Nano, and so I actually decided to look into how it works.
Right.
Was that?
The incentives are all fucked up.
I think so. But
Who's running roads?
well, that's where I got. There is a good. I'm going to talk about the good thing I gleaned from Nano on this, right? Because they use some sort of, basically, as I like to call it, delegated proof of stake with extra steps, where
Yeah.
anyone can run a node. Like literally anyone can run a node. They don't get paid for it. They just run a node, and then anyone who has Nano can pledge their balance behind it, and that's kind of it. And then those people who are in a certain threshold kind of like run things. So it is delegated proof of stake essentially, but with extra steps.
A
Now,
block lattice, bro.
yeah, the lattice is that's a different thing. A little proof of work. Oh, whatever.
Every
So,
account has its
but
own block.
hear me out on this one though, right? What if you had two masternode types that structurally they're the same, right? Structurally they're, you run a node, the node function is the same, you still have a node operator, and et cetera, et cetera. Except one type is a pooled masternode that in order to start it up, anyone with a Dash wallet, like a Dash account, especially when you have usernames, it'll be a lot easier. Anyone with a Dash account can just pledge. They can take a list of people, like a list of nodes in the app, in the mobile app, and then they go pledge and say, I want to put my money behind this node. I want to put it there. And so when a node operator, a hopeful operator, decides he gets 1100 Dash behind him, then he can start the node. And if it goes below 1100, then those in danger nodes are always going to be at the top of the list when you're scrolling through which ones to pledge to. And, and you can pledge up to 1500 Dash towards a single node, which makes it super secure against people pulling out, right? And, more than that would just be ridiculous. And then if there's any nodes that are close to completion, right, like 900 or whatever, they're all always like the next up in there. So basically, you just get to pledge your Dash behind these nodes. They do all the stuff. They do all the voting. They do everything. But then they just have like any old person. They don't have to actually lose custody of their funds. They just pledge fund power behind these. So it's still like, it's basically like the Nano type system, except for a masternode system, because all it does is lets people running the nodes still have to have collateral behind them, right, to do this. And, lets more people run masternodes, but lets the little guy get a little bit of a staking percentage. And of course, it's always not going to be as good of a return because, you're pooling with like a 11. It's always going to be over the 1000 Dash. So you're going to get less ROI for your one Dash than if you had the whole 1000 on your own. Obviously, if it's 1100 all the way up to 1500, the limit for someone who just really wants that, and you just get that, and then I don't know. Tell me what's stupid about my idea. I think it's a good idea, but you might disagree.
No, pretty good idea. I'd like to see it play out. Sometimes you have to either really, really research an idea or try it out and just see how it goes.
Yes.
That's kind of like I was telling you like a couple weeks ago about whatever it was. I was saying that I was glad that Bitcoin SV was doing gigablocks because that's part of Dash's scaling strategy as well. Now, while Dash has done lots of research and Dr. Darren Tapp has done lots of research at ASU about how far we could scale with no problems on our current hardware, we know kind of our limit. But we get to see in real life how gigablocks actually work. So I'm excited to see how that turns out and what that means for Dash as well.
And like BSV, of course, is doing everything in their traditional BSV way, which is go big or go home and pretend like it all worked when it didn't, and which, as someone like would not trust BSV, but I'm very glad they're doing that because that's the upper limit of where we have to kind of see. It's like, well, these crazy people are just putting as big of a block as they can and then just saying, yay, we did it. It just because like they might not be honest about how well it worked, but they don't have to be honest to us. We can see the blockchain and see how well it worked and be like, okay, well, they did this. This is how it turned out. This one got orphaned. That didn't work. This one. And then you get to just see in real time because there's only so many simulator testing, so much university research you can do before you just got a mainnet test. And something other than Dash doing this kind of stuff is pretty, it was funny because there were some headlines about like, BSV can do so many, like 17,000 transactions a second or something like that. I'm like, what? What did they do? Oh, they put out a huge block. It just came out and they're like, well, every 10 minutes there's a block and this one had this many. So therefore divide by, this is how many we can do a second, even if they can't actually sustain it. But it was just it was a funny headline. But I'm glad that they're doing that stuff so people can actually scale on chain.
Yeah, I think that's why I don't want to say every project because there's too many that are just absolutely useless, but there are so many projects. Like, I think that's why it's useful to have so many different projects trying different things in the space. Like, we get to see what works.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's also like, so in the terms of usernames, for example, which I've been doing a lot of looking into and stuff, you get stuff like ENS or right now FIO, and FIO seems to be saying, "Oh, it works a certain way." I've heard it, but then in practice, basically, you put in a FIO username and it resolves to the static address associated with it.
Trash.
And there's, yeah,
I'm sorry.
Sorry,
no
Luke.
offense, guys, and I'm glad they're trying something, but
Yeah.
I've used it. It's trash. It's trash on user experience. It's trash on privacy. It's not good.
Yes,
In my opinion.
currently I would agree. Now, obviously, I like Luke Stokes, great dude, and
for sure.
and I like that they're actually trying stuff, and I appreciate the ideas to get away from the static address thing, and also supposedly when you send a request, you send a request to someone, like a request to be paid, it's a different address every time. I did that, and it was the same address 3 times in a row. I don't know if that's just one of the wallets implement things wrong. So I'm not going to try to talk any smack about that because whatever. But basically, that's what you got. And then you got ENS, you got unstoppable domain, same thing. You put the little domain thing into your little wallet and it just spits out the address. And it's just like, it's really not talking shit,
cool.
but it's ghetto.
It works. And the thing about ENS is, I will say, on Ethereum, it's a state machine. So your address doesn't change anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Your address is always the same, whether you're using a plain address or you're using ENS.
Yes, which is something that people don't understand necessarily who use like Bitcoin and Dash and stuff like that you have to do a new address every time. They're just one for Ethereum. You just got one.
Right, just one. So that makes username systems on Ethereum like ENS a little bit less complicated, I would say, because they only have to resolve to one address.
Mm-hmm.
You still have the same privacy concerns that you do with one address versus a username system, whatever. But the downside to ENS, and I don't know if this is a downside, but it's like a domain name. Mm-hmm. You have to register that name, pay for it. Say it's like, I think right now it's like about $5.
Yeah,
you
but
pay for it every year though.
So $5.
It's not like Twitter where you sign up and that's your name.
So $5, does that factor in Ethereum fees?
Yeah, so no, it doesn't. Here's the funny part. So I was for my consulting business, right? I was with a guy the other day and he wanted to buy an ENS name. So we went on there and looked it up and it was available. And I'm like, yeah, it's $5, but let's actually try to do the transaction. I'm worried about the fees. So we click on it, and because it's a contract as well, the contract interaction was like $95, and then the domain itself was $5. So for a $5 ENS name, he had to pay just over $100.
And unstoppable domains is the same thing, right?
Exactly, same
boat. Ooh.
So what he said was, you know what? I'm gonna hold off on getting this name until the traffic slows down on Ethereum. And I said, yeah. In most cases, that would be an okay strategy, unless you had something that you really needed to get done. So, but in this case, with a domain name, like somebody could come scoop it up. Like you got to buy it when you can.
Yeah. And so all that, so basically that's the way the state of like username stuff. Then you have things like the BSV world, starting with Handcash and then expanding to Paymail, where they just said, we want this good username experience to just send and receive to contacts. We want it now. We don't care if it's centralized. We don't care if it's ghetto. We don't care whatever. And it would just get it done. And in terms of Paymail, from my understanding, even though it's like patented BSV, whatever, it seems to work in a, like, I've seen people complaining about, like, it's centralized and insecure, and probably both are, I would say the insecure bit, maybe, but like, but anyway, basically, I'm glad that they're just like rushing to the finish line and just say, yeah, we got it all, even though it's
Right.
not the right way of doing things, because the right way will never catch up to the
Yeah.
wrong way
And
as long as
you
they
know
get
what?
away with just doing single address thingies.
They might see what
Mm-hmm.
we're seeing right now, which is, and they might have saw this coming, where we
Mm-hmm.
see that like sometimes just having a solution, centralized or not,
Mm-hmm.
is better than having no solution until the right one comes along. Like
Yeah.
for example, Binance Smart Chain, they're centralized, somewhat, mostly centralized, and right now some people are choosing it over Ethereum because why? Because it just works. They don't give a shit. That
Mm-hmm.
doesn't mean that once they got the users on board, they could slowly decentralize. I mean, if they wanted to, it's a possibility, right?
Yeah.
So, whereas there are projects that start from full decentralization and then are working their way, keeping fully decentralized, working their way to better user experiences, it's possible to start from fully centralized or partly centralized and work your way to fully decentralized. Like in the example of BSV, like Handcash's username system was fully centralized to Handcash.
Mm-hmm.
They got together with other wallet providers. They came up with some protocol, and Paymail is decentralized. It's
Yeah.
not on. There's a distinction there.
It seems
It's
like
not on,
it's so
but it is
I would call it more like, because
not
these terms
custodial.
I call them more like federated, right?
Sure,
Because
federated would be the right term, probably.
it's each bit, they're all interoperable, right? Each server is interoperable with another, each Paymail server. So if I have at Handcash, that's interoperable with at Money
Money.
Button or whatever. But each one can also centralize and shut you down. But then that you can just move to another one. So it's kind of like use like Mastodon, right? The federated
Sure.
Twitter thing. It's kind of the
Yeah.
same thing as whichever instance you're on can ban your ass like in a centralized way and censor you. But because there's so many of them and they all connect, it doesn't
Right.
matter as much. So it's not a perfect. It's okay. I
Yeah,
think it's
exactly.
acceptable. It's fine.
It's got downfalls too, right? Like just like everything does.
Mm-hmm.
And well, the other thing about it is just like Mastodon and I think federated is the right word. But just
Mm-hmm.
like Mastodon in that way, you could decide to hell with everybody keep censoring me. I'm gonna run my own.
Yeah. And you can still connect with other people unless the other
Right.
servers decide to censor, to block
Sure.
all traffic from that instance. So
And then in
it's
the rare case that happens, you got to think like there's still behind the scenes. There's
mm-hmm,
still standard addresses.
mm-hmm,
So you can pull up your address and anyone can pay it. Just like if you were WikiLeaks or
yeah,
somebody that was actively being censored, you could just say, "Boom, here's our address," and nobody can stop that payment. Really.
yeah. And so that's one thing I really like about the way Dash is doing things, is it's actually like a cool decentralized way, but also it goes way beyond that kind of stuff. But
Right.
that I just noticed in this live chat there, we're talking about the trustless masternode shares, and Peter Vesborg says that they're working on trustless shares.
Oh, it's a
And
secret.
yeah,
You
and
didn't
he says
say it.
secret. He says done it on testnet, technically sound. The issue is UX/user flow, which of course I'll be able to help. And he's amazing. I'll show the hell out of that stuff. Yeah, I can't wait. It's still a secret. Well, it's still a secret, except that you're talking about it in a live chat on a publicly streamed program, and then I'm talking about it. So it's not super secret anymore. But yeah, keep it up. I already done UX consultation and stuff for some decentralized Dash apps anyway. So Peter, we should talk if I can help. I'll do it for free, right? I'll do it for free. I'll just talk. I'll try to talk.
Or at the very least, you take payment in Dash, right?
Yeah, I do that too. But like, I would rather just like tell them what I believe, and then there we go. So anyway, I'll just try to make sure that thing works, because I think I have a good sense of what I actually did have a UX specialist for a Fortune 500 company like my work. So I'm just saying that's on that one. But anyway, semi-secrecy like semi-centralized. That's true. So speaking of centralized, is it that time to talk about Ripple?
Yeah, I think you said it all. Centralized. That's it, right?
Yeah, so they're being sued by. They're being sued for.
Investigated, right?
They're being investigated for price manipulation stuff that have made people lose money.
Yes.
So
And from the documents that I have read, and if the allegations are true, then if if I wouldn't say if the allegations of price manipulation are true, but if what they said actually transpired, then the price manipulation allegations, I would say, are true.
yeah, and there's not really much to add to that specific bullet point of a story, but do you think it's over for Ripple? I mean, they're ranked 7th. They've been consistently for a while in like the top 3, like or top 2 even. Do you
They've
think
been delisted on lots of exchanges. Uphold still trades them, and
so they gave up a crap load of money and speculation,
yeah,
not fact, right?
right. But that's so. I think part of what they're being accused of is exactly that. That which keeps them, being traded. So what they're saying is, or what's part of what they're being accused of is creating this information vacuum, right? Like their holders don't know what's going on, and they don't communicate that with them. And
And by the way,
so,
on
so
Facebook, Steve Nass just commented, "Boo, Ripple, boo."
yeah,
Yeah,
Ooh,
okay.
Ripple. The truth is, Ripple's um, technology, so to speak, or their purpose is not a bad one. It's
Hmm.
the company that runs it and the way they do things. So if you don't know, there's history behind Ripple. In the very beginning, the CTO of Ripple, Jed McCaleb, actually left.
It did
Um,
stellar.
yeah, because he disagreed with a lot of things, but I think one of them was also the way that Ripple as a company was being run and formed, and
Yeah, I mean, this
and
is
so he
this is
left
my,
and formed.
this is my opinion on Ripple. Is they found some inherent limitations and stuff to things like Bitcoin. They wanted to do things a better way. They're kind of like a proto EOS, so to speak, right? Like they, again, I'm being super noob
Sure.
on this stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, but they're like that. They decided like, oh well, we'll just do it in like a. We don't care about centralization that much. We'll just print all the tokens ourselves. We'll sell it to people, whatever, and we'll have it so anyone can like. We can't figure out this decentralized consensus without mining thingy. So we'll just make it so that like everyone can run a node, but we have to like they each have to whitelist each other. We'll just keep our own whitelist, whatever, and then
Yeah.
just make
Trust
it.
line.
Yeah, and then they start just cutting corner after corner of as far as like, well, we'll just like, well, we don't have a business model, we don't have a profit model yet, and we don't actually have like investors and company equity. Well, we'll just like sell these tokens that are like totally not a security, I guess. And then we'll just do all
Yeah,
this manipulation stuff,
for
and we'll
sure.
just launch into this whole campaign saying that XRP is a decentralized cryptocurrency and all this nonsense that no one with half a brain ever believed. Sorry if you did believe it and you're watching this program. You might have more than half a brain, but you only had half a brain when you thought that. So it just they just corner after corner, and then now it's just like it just to try to get ahead, right? Like kind of like the BSV stuff I was talking about like, we're the real thing and we're doing this. We're gonna just giga block, do a giant block so we can claim this many TPS. We're gonna do cut all these corners, except like on like a much shadier scale, shadier than BSV. A lot of you and I know that a lot of the
Ripple's
stuff. Yeah,
shady.
that's what I'm saying. You and I know that a lot of stuff going on in BSV is not actually shady, even, but its reputation is very shady. Ripple,
Sure.
shady.
A lot of that has to do with Craig, I think, and he's kind of a shady guy. But
Yeah, and Calvin, and
Calvin is definitely shady.
but yeah. So it's just like the crows come home to roost. But it's kind of funny because they made it pretty far. Like they were around since what 2013? Yeah,
Yeah,
was it 2012? Well, when was it? It was back in the day. It was a long time
yeah, it
ago.
was early, and then they received warnings from the SEC like in 2012, I think, and they just ignored it the whole time.
Yeah, and
And
they.
each of the remaining co-founders or whatever, I think profited personally somewhere to the tune of 600 million each.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, I mean, it's been said that they are not only price manipulating by, the way that they've done things, but also, they sell coins on the market when they tell their investors that they're not selling any coins. They purposely keep coins keep from selling coins when the price is on a downward move, like they sell when prices are moving upwards to sort of suppress that price, not purposely, but it hides the activity of them selling coins. So if the price is moving up and they sell coins, the price flatlines and then nobody notices anything.
Yeah, it's crazy how far they've gotten, and they were in the top few for years. So let's be honest, like Bitcoin was the only one anyone needs to care about for a long time, as far as like the major players that have traction. And
Yeah.
for, a few years now, like for most of its existence, let's be honest, Ethereum was the other exception, and still is, by the way. And
Right.
but like, there's a very small bit of time when Ethereum was just another up and coming project, but it got into that legacy status pretty quickly. Ripple's always kind of been there lurking, but then became like a consistent player for a while. And now I think they might be out, Kind of like Litecoin is always up there and then was on its way to obscurity and
Yeah.
then got his resurgence.
It's tough for me to look at this like objectively because I see, as a software developer, I can look at a project and for a while and go, okay, either this one is just like just not there technically, or like what's the draw.
Yeah.
And every time I think like, okay, that one's got to be on the way out now because what just happened is unforgivable, and like somehow it sticks around. Like Litecoin, Charlie Lee saying nobody wants to develop on Litecoin. It's just me and these two other guys, and it's like in my mind, I'm like, okay, I'm staying far away from that shit.
Yep.
But
around.
Still
top 8.
IOTA, which seemed like a cool project. I was super interested in it, but then they have that what's called the coordinator, right? Which is essentially one centralized point. And then some shit happened a while ago, or maybe 2 years ago, where they stopped all value transactions for like fucking 7 days or something. And to me, that's crazy that they can even do that. So in my mind, I'm like, all right, that project's out. Nope, they're still there. And I still have people shill them to me on Twitter. And they said, oh, it's going to happen soon. They're getting rid of that coordinator. Well, they've been saying that since before 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've been saying that for 4 years. They just don't know how to do it. So if they don't know how to do it, what's the point of the project?
Yeah.
Like,
well, that's a thing.
Ripple's, I feel like SEC investigation, besides the fact that they're just centralized, they're centralized shitcoin, whatever. I'm like, okay, they're out, but they're still up. The price is still moved up. I don't get it. Whatever.
Yeah, I don't get. Well, I do think that Ripple could sunset because basically it's like, what is the company Ripple Labs? Like, what is the company actually? What is their profit model? Are they going to actually succeed in what they do? The token itself is just a thing to pump the company. And now that the SEC is trying to like combine them again, and it's going to make things hard for them. And most Ripple people just don't touch it. They just have the token, hope it goes up. So I think
that's what makes it a security. I think the fact that Ripple Labs' profit only comes from holding the coin.
No, not from holding the coin, just from dumping the coin.
That's what I mean, dumping the coin, because they started out with all of it. Basically, they sell the coin, and that's where their profit comes from. That makes it a security, in my opinion. And I'm not a lawyer, so who knows? But that's what makes it, right? Like other places, Ethereum, they have the Ethereum Foundation, which is different than it's not a company that has a profit model, right? It's a foundation. Whereas Ripple Labs is a company. How do they intend on making money? They don't. They just sell Ripple.
Yeah, eventually, once they take over everything, then they make profit elsewhere. But in the meantime, no. Which is kind of an interesting... So we're talking about like IOTA and stuff. IOTA made some bold things by doing everything different. And as, like a man of science or whatever you want to call it, I appreciate that you're trying to push stuff forward, do things new. Now, of course, everything bad that happened with IOTA is because they did things new. It's just like, oh, this sucks. Like how can you do completely new things?
New encryption algorithm, right? That had never been tested or used before.
Yeah. And it's funny because and supposedly no fees, but like, we're not going to get spammed because someone has to do proof of work. Someone spammed the crap out of the network with a first off, they're like, how do we act? Like, no, the Tangle, they just builds on each other and it works. Okay, does it? But then it doesn't. So you need a coordinator, you need a centralized entity to still validate stuff. And then
Right.
they spam the network to death with messages that shut down the whole network with messages that say screw the coordinator in the
Right.
transaction. They're just like doing that. And then okay, so now we're in a centralized system and they're trying to be like, well, let's try to decentralize this. And I feel like Nano hasn't had these kinds of issues as far as I know because they kind of skip to the end result, which is some sort of a delegated proof of stake style system. Not exactly, but
Sure.
still, you have to have nodes. There has to be some stake behind them, so you can't Sybil attack them, and they have to go confirm actual transactions, just the actual lattice, the actual
Yeah.
connections between the
And
peer to peer things.
correct me if I'm wrong, but I think each participant, before sending a transaction, has to do some proof of work to add to the transaction and broadcast it.
Yes, and the recipient has to do the same thing. Each transaction
Okay.
has to have a sender and a recipient action. And so, what's
Right.
funny? Um,
Yeah.
I
You can
decided
send money, and if you don't receive it, it's not there.
so I decided to play a little game. So I took my two Nano wallets. I have a little bit of Nano, and so I turned my phone off, completely off, and I sent to my phone wallet. I said 20 transactions in a row, just 20 transactions. Then I turned my phone on and opened up my Nano wallet, and it took several minutes to like confirm all those transactions because my phone had to catch up with doing proof of work for 20 transactions. And then
Right.
it wasn't just the phone not syncing. I was looking on the blockchain too. It's like 20 unconfirmed transactions on this account. And
Sure.
my phone had to go, and then it went to the top of my battery usage charts on my Android thing here. And it was just like to go through all these things, and they're free, right? So can you imagine if I hit a script and sent you 150 transactions, which no, 1,000. Make it big. 1,000
Sure.
transactions. You turn on your
Yes,
phone, you can't
you do.
send money for hours, right? And
Yeah, you might not be able to do anything on your phone for hours.
yeah, that's why you have to do the receive thing because you can also opt out of receiving the funds. Like they're still irreversible, but you can just
Sure.
opt out, and so therefore that doesn't spam your thing. And so there's a bunch of weird little things you could do here. But the biggest thing that's interesting, and I don't want to make this into a big Nano thing. Someone in the live chat before we're done, say something different if you want us to talk about something different. I'm on my Nano rant, but so Nano, because of the way things work, I believe every single transaction has to originate from the Genesis block. Is in because they all build on top of each other. They don't just like randomly mine coins and then you go into a block and then the blockchain builds like that. All the funds in it. This is where I'm a little fuzzy. I'm not necessarily 100%, but I believe all the funds have to originate at the Genesis block, and they all have to come from the same spot, which is why IOTA I believe as well. But Nano is a 100% pre-mined coin, and because no one gets anything in fees, there are no fees. The only way to distribute it is manually, and so they literally have CAPTCHA faucets. That's how they distributed the entire coin. Is just like
Capture faucets, sure.
and so I'm sure there's worse ways of doing it, but still, it's just like, what if they, who's to prevent, let's just say, the Nano Foundation from paying someone in, say, a developing country where they don't make that much money, pay them a certain amount of money just to like do the captcha over and over and over again of a certain amount of like dollars, right? Or like pesos or whatever you got, and then just like re-hoard all that money. It's not a really secure distribution scheme at all. So
Sure.
who knows who controls it? And as far as I know, though, according to that structure, that fee list, whatever structure, that's the only way to get coins is to just have them start with a pot and then just you branch them out from there, give them out.
Right.
And
There's no
so
line.
that's a corner you have to cut. Oh, crypto finally update, Hilawi says. Okay, we might as well stop. We might as well end this with a juicy drama gossip thingy, whatever. Are you familiar at all with the crypto finally saga?
Not at all. I don't even know what that is.
Yeah, what is a crypto and why is it finally? So Rebecca, I forget what's her name, or she goes by Crypto Finally. She's the crypto selfie person. He just like every post is like her taking a mirror selfie and stuff. A little bit of a thirst trap, but like I haven't seen anything.
Like a lewd selfie?
No, not really. It's just like
Just
there.
a girl in crypto with a bunch of boy nerds.
Yes, a bunch of. She calls them her simps, so she says it, not me. So she got a bunch
Yeah.
of simps. Um, I guess alluring photos, not like porny, not nothing like where you think, oh, this is a sex worker or something. Just a little, whatever, thirst trapping. She's doing her thing. Yes. Rachel. Yeah. Did I say Rebecca? Maybe I'm thinking it's because it's Friday. If you know. Sorry. Anyway, crypto finally doing her thing. A certain CoinDesk reporter named Lay, who anyone in the Dash community knows her unfortunately too well, wrote a hit piece on NFT thirst traps. And basically, because everyone's doing NFTs, no one's doing more NFTs than Ken Bozak, but everyone's doing NFTs. And basically, CoinDesk wrote this article that painted what Finally is doing in a very negative light, using like salacious terms and stuff, and basically equating it to Bella Delphine selling bathwater and stuff, and like her selling like an NFT of herself in like a robe where you can't see anything. It's a little thirst trappy, but not like lewd. Definitely Instagram friendly or whatever. And it's like equating that, and as a result of like it just dripping with negativity any way you can write it. It's an art form how negative you could be without saying specific things. And as a result, obviously this upset the person, right? This upset Finally. And she got, more importantly, I believe that, Crypto Finally OnlyFans became like a top thing on her Google search results now. That everyone thinks she's like a sex worker now, and she's not. And when when you're not, and people think you are, that can be a very upsetting thing. And I hear, again, anecdotally, that it has cost her some professional opportunities, and it's like it's a reputation damage, right? So it sucks. It's I personally believe that when you're walking that little line of like, what was that?
That libel almost?
Pretty much, but it wasn't. Nothing was like. I don't think there was anything.
Right?
There was no like abject. As far as I read the article, there was nothing abjectly like a lie in there. Like you say this and this is provably false. There was just a lot of like salacious language and allusions to just imply that this person is selling. Well,
implications, sure.
One thing that
what they're saying is like selling pictures of herself, which is true if it's an NFT, but
yeah, it's not like an NFT of like more revealing anything. It's like in a robe where her whole torso is covered, and calling that lingerie, which according to my definition, I would not call that. It might technically be called that because it's like bedwear, but like you can't see. So basically using words like this and then in the same sentence as gamer girl bathwater and lewd photos and OnlyFans, like
which is true from whatever her name is.
So what I would say is it's not necessarily a lie, but it is very clearly dishonest. And anyway, she's been upset about this. This same writer wrote some nonsense about Dash. Remember, even if it fails? Do you remember that headline? That first big CoinDesk thing of like, even if it fails, Dash is doing great things in Africa and South America.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, where she even got big things wrong, like said you can't run a Dash node unless you have a bunch of money. Like didn't know that there's such thing as regular nodes and did not correct that in the article. It's still there. It's still incorrect, factually incorrect. And so I do not believe this person works for CoinDesk anymore, but she has posted a lot of things about like, oh, why don't journalists want to talk to me anymore and stuff like that. It's like, oh, man. Anyway, I covered this in my Why Does Crypto Journalism Suck So Bad video on the same channel you're watching this on, so you can go back and watch this. but it definitely got a little bit more into that stuff. But anyway, that was the update. Hilawi, do you have a better update? As far as I know, they haven't retracted anything. There have been quite a few people like myself and other articles that have been written that have mentioned this issue, that this is an issue, that, smear campaigns and, just nonsense. As far as I know, that's it, though. Just CoinDesk kind of cyberbullied a little bit as well. And here's the thing, though. CoinDesk, there was a point when there was a certain editor of CoinDesk that now, when he wrote this giant nasty, he authorized this giant nasty hit piece against Dash. Not the one I'm even talking about here, but the other one that says, no one uses Dash in Venezuela. Dash is lying. Like that. Remember that one too? That guy's no longer with CoinDesk. The author of that article is no longer with CoinDesk. And they seem to have cleaned up their act. I think they just, got some issues with these kinds of people. And as far as the Crypto Finally article author, I believe she's moved on. She hung around a lot longer, but again, no apology, no retraction, no nothing. I don't know. It is what it is. It's the Wild West.
Yep, it's true.
So,
she has the foresight to jump into a industry or space or whatever you want to call it, predominantly male nerds, and she saw a market and a market fit, and good on her for it.
Yeah, and it's also one of those things where I believe CoinDesk was quite unfair to her. While believing that, I also understand.
It's like the most irresponsible journalism in the whole space.
Yeah, that's for sure. But so definitely at the same time, like, if you walk that like line of like whoops, nip slip, or like, oh, suggestive but not too suggestive, and call your followers, simps, and then you say like, my thighs are sore from pumping the market all day. That was another tweet I thought was pretty hilarious. But, good tweet. No.
I mean, you got to expect that, I suppose.
Yes, there's like always a risk that you get pushed into the OnlyFans, street like cam girl category and stuff, and it's
I don't think there's anything wrong with that category either, if that's what you want to do.
But it's just a risk of the business when you're walking that, which honestly, I find a lot of the male crypto YouTubers way worse in a different direction of the Pumpville. Huge news, sick gains right around the corner, all this, like that. Except that's not just like exploiting thirstiness for a little bit of money. That's like exploiting money for a little bit of money. It could ruin people. But that's like another 5-hour conversation on like how terrible all this pumpiness is. Respect the pump. The pump will respect you. Like all that nonsense. Just no. Anyway, what do you have to shill, my man, before we wrap this up?
Me?
Yeah.
I'm not shilling anything.
Unless
you guys want to buy this.
Go fast, don't die. Motorcycle shirt. Where can you get one of those? Because it's your buddy who makes those, right?
Yeah. GoFastDon'tDie.com. The 2 objectives when riding a motorcycle.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. That's the only thing I have to shill today.
Yeah. Let me see. Let me see if I can find that guy's Twitter or whatever.
Well, I'm sure they got one.
No, not for them. For this other. I'm just see if I can remember. Yeah, it's Crypto Gifts or Crypto Gifts _EN. Makes this thing, right? This is a little whiskey set. They make a bunch of different kind, little branded thing.
Yeah, I remember you showing me.
Yeah, and so I've showed it before, but like while I'm already giving free publicity to other people, might as well do that. Right. Crypto Gifts _EN on Twitter.
Yeah, we have one.
Yeah, so I don't know where you can get one of these. I think they're all sold out. You cannot have my Doge. The WoW is all mine. Okay, stay away from it.
What?
Stay away from it.
You're hoarding the WoW?
Yes, because Doge might not have a scarce supply, but the pillows do, for sure. So that's all the showing. Next week, Dash Podcast. By the way, I'm considering making the rundown a weekly thing. and just cutting it short at, and then rolling right into the Dash podcast on the every other week. If you think this is a good idea, let me know. And yeah, I'll do that. Dash podcast next week. Like, comment, share, subscribe. I'm like at 1060 or so YouTube subscribers, especially on Library/Odysee. I have like 7,300 or whatever. And when they do streaming, I'm going to be just all in on that. Big thanks to Cointree for enabling the donations and messages and things like that. They do a great job. And yeah, just remember, stay decentralized or get wrecked. Leave you guys with that. Thanks, Spencer, and bye, everyone.